at the end of the day, like, I'm speaking my truth. I'm being honest about how I feel. That's all I can ask for. Like, and the impact that it will have on generations after me is like, you know what I mean? Something that's more important to me than, you know what I mean, an NWSL paycheck.
Welcome, Z King, to two wash-ups, one pro, a wolf packer, a pack of the wolf. As a Raleigh native, go pack, even though
I
I'm a
love
Tar
that.
Heel.
Go Pack.
All my family went to NC State, so like I'm especially excited for this one. Just an unbelievable human being, infectious smile, a stud of a soccer player, a stud of a human off the field. We are so excited to have you. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, first of all, for that was so nice. I'm doing good. I'm super excited to be on here with you guys. So
Awesome. Awesome. How are you doing? Are you in Jersey right now?
I am. Yep. Just got here probably 2 days ago.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a long and interesting season. So kind of glad to be home, but also kind of like, where's the soccer, you know?
You're
So
itching to get back.
absolutely.
Is it snowing there?
No.
No.
It's
Actually,
snowing in Chicago. That's why she asked that. I'm in
mm,
Chicago. It's we've hit winter.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
been surprisingly warm here. Like I got here and I had like a vest and a sweatshirt on, and I was like, hold up, I'm hot. Global warming, I guess. I
Yeah,
don't know.
something.
facts. It'll be 70. We'll be like, okay.
Okay, cool. So we always just kind of like to start off with every person we interview just about the moment that they fell in love with the sport. Can you just kind of talk about if there's that one moment or if it's like kind of like a long relationship where you finally found out you were in love? Kind of talk about that for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think the latter was probably for me. I feel like, I started when I was 4, and, I feel like when you're younger, it's just like, wow, like I'm good at this. Like this
Mm.
is fun. And, it just kind of continued like, oh, I'm good at this. Let's keep doing it. And then I think, let me see. It was probably around, I guess, high school, when people, when people like are like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. And then you're
Mhm.
kind of like, no, like this is serious. Like
Mhm.
I want to keep
Yeah.
going. And I think that's kind of when I realized like I really like doing this. Like when people kind of started to drop off. And I was like, I don't even see what my life would be like without this. So like let's just keep rolling with it. And so yeah, I think it's just kind of always been like without it, I feel like bored. I'm like, what am I doing? And then when I'm doing it, I'm just like, this is fun. So I
That's
think
awesome.
it's kind of been an ongoing type thing.
I love that. Okay, so for someone who played against you, the fact that, doing some back end research that your recruitment story is quite fascinating. For like people that know, like just know who you are now, you would think that you were highly, highly recruited.
Right.
But can you just walk us through how you ended up at NC State and your experience growing up playing futsal?
Yeah, definitely. So my whole life, probably up until my junior year, I played for my township team. So the Winslow Tigers was our name. We played in like, I don't even know what division it was. And so we just kind of went to showcase tournaments and stuff like that. And I think I got my first offer I got from Monmouth, here in Jersey, and she kind of gave me a deadline. She was like, "Hey, like I'll offer you in December. You got to let me know by February." And that was my only offer at the time, and I think it was like sophomore year or so. And I was like, I don't have any other offers. Like, what am I about to do? Like, I should just take it because what if I don't get any more? But something inside me was like, you know what? Like, just roll with it. Like, you believe in yourself. Like, someone else is gonna come along and offer you. And so I passed on that one, and I got a few other like smaller end, like I got a Delaware offer, UNC Wilmington, and then I got my two biggest offers were West Virginia and NC State. And so I took them both in the same trip. And I love West Virginia. Like the facilities are so nice, everything's brand new. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is where I want to be.
Mhm.
I went down to NC State directly after that, so my vision was a little clouded. So I was like, it's nice, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So I got home and I was just like, And like, I just figured like NC State was the fit for me. Like I loved the vision that, Tim had. He was like, look, like where we're at right now is, below average, but like I have a vision for this, and like I think that you could help in this vision. And I kind of have always had that like underdog type of mentality. And so when he said that, I was like, absolutely. It was my only ACC offer. Like, even though they were at the absolute bottom of the ACC, I was like, this is the stage I want to be on. And I was just super excited about it. So that's how I ended up at NC State. And then as far as futsal goes, oh man, I'm a big futsal girl. Love me some futsal.
I love that. Like, I just love that. I want to hear all about it.
So yeah, so we probably started playing around, I don't even know, like 8 or 9. And we just would do like all the regional tournaments. We'd play in leagues up in Princeton. And it's a funny story actually, because like we would always try and enter both the girls and the boys leagues. And they would always be like, oh, girls don't belong in the boys league. We would get in there and literally whoop them. Like they would leave there crying. Nothing's better than leaving a field and the boys are crying. Like
For sure.
like y'all tried it and now y'all can go home and cry. But yeah, so we just I did that all through, middle school or whatever, high school. And I just feel like it's such a developer for your game, like your footwork.
Sure.
You gotta figure out how to like work in tight spaces. It like, it's a vision type thing. Like it like changes your vision. And I always am like, look, if you want to get better, on the ball, play futsal. Like I'm a big futsal advocate.
I think that's like super fascinating. Is it because that it's I know this sounds like maybe stupid, because it's cold up there? Do you think that's why more futsal leagues are like around? Because down south, like you can just be outside practically all the time.
I'm sure
Yeah. Yeah. And then secondly, what I also find fascinating too is that you like are absolutely blazing fast, but then you have the ability, which it makes sense now that you play
highly technical. For anyone who doesn't know, just from listeners' perspective, futsal is it's indoor soccer, but it's also the ball itself is heavier. It's super tight spaces. You play basically like, is it 4v? What's the numbers? It's 5v5. And it's known internationally as like a tool to get players super like pristine technically. Like, I don't know if Joe have experienced, but like I remember like Japan and like all these countries utilize it to like get technical skills super high. So to your point, I think that is really interesting because you right? Like I would think you're so great in space because you have all this pace and like on a 11v11 field, you can do so much, but to see like that you've utilized that kind of like technical side is really interesting when you think about it.
Yeah, it's like literally the perfect combination.
Well, that's probably why she's so successful.
Yeah, makes sense now. Makes sense.
Guys.
Makes sense.
So you kind of touched on it before, but we wanted to get, obviously, to your point, NC State had a little bit, when you were probably getting recruited, they were in a rough patch. There was changing of coaches pretty consistently at the bottom of the ACC. But I think as our classes moved out and your class became more upperclassmen, you guys really started to like make a name for yourself as a program. Talk about one, I know you kind of mentioned it, but I think that's a hard decision, right? Like going into a program and it kind of having a losing environment, despite maybe the environment being fine amongst the players. What was that process of kind of getting it to a more winning culture? And what was your college experience like being that class to kind of make a mark on the NC State program?
Yeah, so it's funny because our freshman class, so 2016, we had 11 people in our class. Wow. So when we came in, it was like, well, we don't know any different. Like they say this is a losing program, but we're half the team. We're not losers. So like, let's come in here and flip the script. So like, honestly, like we had no expectations. Like we just went out and we played. And so, when it's funny because when ACC rolled around and we were like, okay, UNC is our first ACC game. We're like, okay, well, we don't know what that means. Like, we know there's a rivalry, but let's just go out there and play. And like, we pulled out the win somehow. And it was just like, you know what I mean? Like, hey, like we can change this. And so I think that had a big factor in that. Like when you come in with new energy and you know what I mean? It encourages everybody else around you, like, okay, like, I don't know what they got going on, but let's roll with it. Like, that's kind of like how it went. And so, like I had said, like, I had always kind of had that underdog mentality, like, and so that was an environment for me that I thrived in, and I absolutely loved it. Like, I loved going into games where people were like, "Oh, it's just NC State," and you're like, "Yeah, okay, it's just NC State, but we gonna give you a run for your money."
Yeah.
So I just think that, those 4 years were great. Like, I mean, 3.5 technically, but if I could go back and do it again, I absolutely would. I loved it. It was a great time. We had rough patches, but for the most part, like, we 100% flipped the program to a place where, I think we put NC State on the map. So it was
Absolutely. Yeah.
great.
So, kind of a little bit about me. I grew up like Raleigh 919, like NC State. Like my dad went to state, my
Mhm.
mom went to Meredith, right by state. My
Yep.
aunt went to state. So like we're like wolf pack through and through. And
Mhm.
like
We get it.
I
You
know,
went
but
to
I'm just saying
state.
that's why I'm like so no, but that like I think like I want her to know is like why I'm so excited
She's
because
losing
like
fans, as you know.
no, I know,
She's
but like
literally losing fans today. All
I'm
the Tar
just so
Heels hearing
no, I
this.
know. I'm a Tar Heel born, Tar Heel dead, and when I die, I'll be a Tar Heel dead. But did I say that? Did I miss that? Anyways,
Anyway,
to see what you did to that program, you and the coach when the coaching change came in, like it brings so much like joy to me because like NC State was just always the school that just kind of got stepped on.
Right.
And like to see what you did and Tim did is like truly remarkable. And like it makes me very proud as like a Raleigh native
Thank
for
you.
that to happen. And like I remember like so I like had my ACL surgery the day before that y'all beat us.
Mhm.
And I came to the game and I was like hopped up on my drugs, but I was like, I feel fine. I'll come to the game. And I remember like who was it? Kate who scored? I
Kia.
can't. Yeah, scored, and I was like, I remember thinking like, yeah, that's a new state team. This is going in like this isn't going to be the same old state team. And Kaylin Bach, who I actually went to school with since I was in 4th grade, so
Oh, that's
she like came over to me and she was like, I was like, dude, just go celebrate. Like, don't worry about me. Like, you guys are on to something. And each year, like seeing you guys, like I'm like, God, this Z kid, like how the hell are we like who's gonna handle her? So it's just great to go from like literally, it sounds bad, but y'all being the team to be stepped on in the
right.
ACC.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean to then being
I'm curious, Z, when did you know when you were like, okay, I can make this a professional career? When did you know in your 4 years where your NWSL was kind of in the clear for you?
question.
Honestly, I feel like my whole life I've always been like, I'm gonna be a professional, and I feel like everybody kind of has that vision.
Mhm.
But I don't know if there really was a certain point where I was like, okay, like I can do this. Like, I just always had that as my like end goal, and so I think like regardless, I was gonna get there. So I don't think there was ever a point where I was like, oh yeah, like I'm a shoe in. Like, I was just like, look, like I think I performed well enough over these 4 years. I'll put my name in the draft and see how it goes. So, there was never a point where I was like, yeah, like this is gonna be for me. I just always kind of rode the wave. That's kind of how my personality.
Honestly, that says a lot, and I respect the confidence because I think it just proves you've always been a very honest player. So I think that's really awesome, and probably why you got to where you are now.
Thank you.
So we wanted to pivot a bit and obviously kind of touch on what this year. Me and Joe were talking. We're just like, dang, not only coming in this year, but being a rookie, like I can't even imagine like what that process is like. But obviously, we get COVID. There's all this injustice going on in society. You guys have to go in this bubble and try to perform. You're like on a new team, but also like quarantining and playing and doing all these things. Um, what is it like for you? Because what makes you so amazing to me is obviously now people that know you, you're such an advocate for the Black community. But I think people don't realize like one, and this is not, but like we're NWSL players, right? Like I think this is the first time for even big time players who've been in the league for 7 years finding their voice.
Mhm.
So not only did you have the courage as a rookie, someone new in the league with things on the line to come out and say, okay, like this is greater than just soccer. This is a bigger issue. Like I can't just exist as a soccer player and I need to have my voice be heard regardless of the pushback or who hears it or what. Here's my truth. How did you honestly, like, how did you first get there and have that courage? And it sounds like part of it's your personality. And why was that so important to you to really put out there like Z as a human beyond just a soccer player?
Yeah. You know, you kind of nailed it. Like that's just who I am. I've always kind of been this way. And every time I tell this story, I tell people like I'm the youngest and I'm the only girl in my family. So I have two older brothers. So like if I needed something, like you were gonna hear it. Like I had no problem voicing it. Like you can't eat those chips. Mom said you can't eat them. Like
Love strong women.
exactly. Like I was always like, honestly, like I always had that voice. And so, you know, coming into this year and, you know, everything that was kind of going down, I think, you know, when everything started to happen, I was like, okay, like I feel some type of way about this. Part of me was like, okay, like, should I just go straight at it? Like, I don't know these people, they don't know me, like I'm new here, like, but I was like, honestly, like if I don't say something, like nobody's gonna say something. So I just, you know, typed up this message and sent it in our group chat. And I was like, hey guys, like obviously we see what's going on. And like I just want you to know that like we have to have these conversations. Like we like if anybody wants to like learn more, if we want to have a team meeting, whatever, like to talk about what's going on, like I think we should do it because at the end of the day, like um I think the whole bottom line here is like these things keep existing because nobody's saying anything. Like if you don't know my perspective or if you don't know or if you're not trying to listen and see what's going on, nothing ever is ever going to get fixed. So it's like at the end of the day, I was like, look, just throw it out there. Either I'll get a terrible response and nobody will want to talk about it and I'll see everybody's true colors, or everybody will be receptive and will want to hear what's going on and will want to learn. And luckily the latter was the situation. And I'm really thankful for that. I had a really good group that was really, you know, open to learning. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's something, especially in a space, you know, being a Black player in a predominantly white sport, it's not easy to just like, especially when like you are say the only Black player on your team, like, and then it's like everybody's eyes are on you. You don't have anybody to back you up. You don't have any support. And it's just like, okay, like, what if I say the wrong thing, or what if I lose my train of thought and all these people are questioning me and I feel uncomfortable and you know what I mean? And again, like not everybody has that like upfront, like I'll tell you how it is type personality. And so it can be hard. And you know, like you were saying about, you know, being NWSL players, I mean, for me, like I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, she had so much to lose. And I'm like, I didn't really have that much to lose.
Yeah.
Like
We
we
talked about
we
that too. It's like, well, I'll probably make the same amount of money if I go work probably anywhere.
exactly.
So
So like, look, like at the end of the day, like I'm speaking my truth. I'm being honest about how I feel. That's all I can ask for. Like, and the impact that it will have on generations after me is like, you know what I mean? Something that's more important to me than, you know what I mean, an NWSL paycheck, if we're
for
being
sure.
completely
Yeah.
honest.
And I'm curious because, you know, obviously as I've been following you, I know Joe has, and I think it's
Yeah.
incredible, not only your vulnerability, but your ability to own it. Cause I think, you know, we live in a world where it's like, this is who I am. Like, you need to embrace me. I don't need to adjust to you. Like that needs to become the norm.
Exactly.
And for me, I wonder, like, obviously we knew you had support of the players, and I feel like generally it was a positive response, but I'm curious from your end, like, were you surprised at all as like, did you get reached out to by a lot of people personally over social media, over platforms, and like, um, what did that mean to you? What was that experience like? I wonder if your message really hit hard with, you know, young girls or people you didn't anticipate if that had happened.
Absolutely. The outpour of support was unreal. Like so many people were like, this is exactly what this league needed, or like saying like my daughter was watching your game, my daughter read your article and she just was like, it was so powerful. And I like the amount, like I can't even put in words, like, and that is like so like that motivates me even more. Like I understand that people really resonate with the message that I'm putting out, and that just, you know, makes me want to push harder and go further. And so It's definitely, and fair share of people who are haters. The haters always pop out, but
Hi.
I just think it's hilarious. Like
That's
every
what I
time.
say. Bye,
um,
Felicia. I say that.
Exactly. But yeah.
That is truly, like, honestly, truly remarkable. Like, I got chills, like, just throughout that entire thing. Like, when you said, like, you legitly, like, first came into the team, you just, when all that happened, you typed up a message and sent it out to the entire team. Like, the guts and the courage for the people that, like, are listening, for that to happen, like, a rookie just got drafted to do that and have the courage to do that with so many prominent players. Like, huge kudos to you, man, to just start
Thank
the
you.
conversation. And
Also
like,
think about that. Like we spend, I mean, think about like college. You spend so much time with these women.
yeah.
Like
And it's like you're putting
to
something
like put that out there and it
yeah.
may go negative. It's like,
Yeah.
I can imagine part of you is like, God,
And like
if
you're
there's
on the
something
West
bad, I gotta
Coast.
deal with these people like
Yeah.
many hours of the day for a long
Yep.
time. Like
Yeah.
it's not even like who cares, right? Like if they're gonna be negative, that's on them and like their true colors will show. But there's a little piece of you that's like, do I gotta deal with this now? Like, and I
Right.
didn't think that would happen, but it's definitely a risk you take when you kind of like put
Right.
yourself out there
Yeah.
to a team and
That's massive, dude. Like, I just, like, when you told me that, I was like, yeah, she's definitely, yep.
do you think that helps Z like with coping in a way? Because we talked to Simone Charlie in a podcast before, and I just was so, I mean, I've always looked at you guys as like as a league, just as all these strong women, but like to be going through, like I have, friends on the Red Stars, to know like the mental strain of going through that quarantine and playing and out there and being in
Right.
a pod. And then you have all this emotional stress of like social, and I was emotional for a month. I can't even imagine what Black players were feeling, and then also having to do your job and it
Right.
being a physical job, a mentally and physically taxing job. So like how did you cope mentally with that? Like just to, I don't know if that helped with the coping or like if you found other mechanisms to kind of work through it, because it could be, I mean, I imagine you were frustrated.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of me was like, okay, like I'm glad I opened this box, but part of me was also like, okay, like I'm tired of having this. I'm tired of talking about this. I'm tired of everybody looking to me for the answer. I'm tired of. So I think there was definitely a double-sided kind of situation there, but I think big picture, like it was more important that I did that than anything. As far as coping with what was going on, I mean, um, there was just times when I just didn't want to talk to anybody. Like, don't talk to me. Like, don't ask me. Like, ask somebody else. Like, read about it. I don't know. I don't have the answer for you right now. Like, and I think that one of the biggest things that helped me cope was just like talking to my family, talking to my brothers, just like venting, just saying like, I can't believe like this is all going down still. Like, we're in 2020. Like, how is racism still, you know what I mean, even this prominent? And obviously in the midst of that, in the midst of being in the bubble, thankfully, we got to stay in our own apartments, so that kind of made it a little bit better. Just having like your own kind of space to come to. But then again, I'm a rookie, so really is it my space because I just got there? Like, it was just like like everything was just like on top of each other. But honestly, like I'm, you know, a big, just kind of like, I like to take bubble baths. I like to walk. I have like a singing bowl. So like just anything I could do to just kind of like decompress. And then like another component of it that was kind of hard throughout all of this is like, and I voiced this opinion multiple times. Like, I think that like the fact that there's a lack of diversity in our organization made it even that much harder, because it's like, okay, like we don't have any people of color in the front office, we don't have any people of color in the coaching staff, we don't have any people of color doing media, like we don't have anybody that can relate to the struggles of Black people during this time. So it's like, okay, it's always like, okay, let's look back on the players on the team and say like, what do you guys think of this, what do you guys think of this? And it's like, okay, like if you had somebody up there that could personally relate to the situation, it would never fall back down on us all the time. And so I think that
that's a lot to shoulder.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think like a point you just brought up and I didn't even think about till you talked about was like, I'm a big advocate of that too. I think like the boardroom, you do need to have diversity, and especially women of color, like, because they can relate to these
Right.
situations. But I also think what people don't consider, and we haven't talked about necessarily, is like a lot of times too, like the burden being put on you. I know, like for myself during that time, and I think it still happens, is like you've been vulnerable, you put yourself out there. But
Right.
as you said before, it's like I'm not an educator. Like
Right.
I'm exhausted. Now it's your job to educate yourself. Like it's
Exactly.
not to, and I think that's like, it's hard, right? Because you don't want to push people away, but you know, it's exhausting. It's like, I can't speak for, you know, the lives of every Black American. Like I'm speaking my truth and I'm telling you that you need to educate yourself. And I think for me personally, as a white American, like I realize like I do, like I need to read, I need to like do my own education. And part of that's not like reaching out to all my Black friends and being like, what's the solution here?
Exactly.
And I just think that's a really important note to bring up, because that does take on a lot of strain as players, as people that you know, I just think that's a really good point to bring up, and something that we don't consider generally in the world
Mhm.
in situations like this. So
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
another way that you guys persevered.
So kind of like going off of that, Instagram featured you on their Instagram, which
Yeah.
I think just like is just so cool. Like you were featured with, Slow Stevens, like,
Like big names.
like huge names. Asia Wilson, like a
Yeah.
stud. Like, how does that make you feel? Do you feel as if you're now, a spokesperson? Like, how do you feel about that?
Honestly, like when I first got that, like, yeah, the media person was like, "Hey, like Instagram wants to feature you on Instagram," and I was like, "Huh? What does
Instagrams.
that even mean?" But they're like, "Yeah, like the official Instagram account," and I was like, "Wow, like that's kind of crazy." And like they were saying, like, "Yeah, it's gonna be like a feature on Black women and across different leagues," and I was like, and they picked me. Like there are so many like badass Black women in this league, and I'm the one. But I was like, okay, like I'm not gonna.
Don't underestimate yourself.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You're in
I
the
would.
group, girl.
So I was like, yeah, like this is really cool. So when the whole thing kind of happened, like when I got put on there, I was like, man, like they have like hundreds of millions of followers. I'm like, so literally, even still to this day, like I started that day probably with 6,000 followers. I'm up to like 42,000. And every time I refresh, it's like 100 new followers, 100 new followers. I'm like, bro, can we stop now? Like
No
I'm almost like,
name.
this is overwhelming. And it's just like, it's really cool because I'm like, I love that like my outreach and my platform is gonna be like even like broader, but also I'm like, man, like I can't even see who's following me. I don't even know. Like I can't even keep track. Like the message requests are like I'm like I'm trying to keep up. And I'm like always a person that's like, I always like, I want to respond to like everybody that messages me. Like I
Yeah.
want to like, you know what I mean? So I'm like, I can't do that anymore, but
That's
it's
Big
crazy.
time. She's big
it's
time now.
really cool.
Yeah, you big timer Wolfpacker.
Timer.
Not
Patty
even,
Wolf.
not even.
Yes.
Like even when people say that, I like get uncomfortable. I'm like, please don't say that. Like I'm not. I'm just the same old
Yeah.
regular schmegular
Just
Sierra.
focus on
Like I'm just. Don't look at me any differently. Like I'm the same. So
I love that. I love that. Okay, kind of, switching to a lighter note, let's get into your ability as a stud of a player. You come in and you literally find instant success. You come in, I think, with 20 minutes left and score, the game tying goal.
right.
Talk about the transition, from college, how you handled it with probably having 8 preseasons. Talk about that. Just give me your rookie year.
Oh man. Well, so we get there in February. I got there like a week early or so because I'm like, okay, like get accustomed to altitude because that's what everybody's saying. Like the altitude's crazy. So I got there a little bit early, started to like train and stuff, and then literally we had one day of preseason, and then they were like, okay, like you guys have an off day. So we had an off day, and then it was like shut down, and then it was like a week. Like okay, we'll try to start next week, another week. Like okay, like so we're like, what is going on? And then so like everybody that wasn't on contract yet was like, okay, you guys gotta go home. And I was like, okay, I moved all my stuff out here. Now I gotta get it all back to the East Coast. I'm like, this is a mess. So went back home for I don't know, probably like 3 months or so. Talk about a struggle.
Damn.
Literally trying to like stay fit, trying to stay motivated. I was like, what is it?
Free.
Like, it was
You were in Jersey.
exactly,
Let's just make
exactly.
that Jersey. I'm
Exactly.
from New York. Every 1 in 5 people were sick.
It was a train wreck. Like, you couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't do anything. Like, nothing was open. It was just like literally like in my backyard every day, in my basement, trying to lift like the 3 weights that we had down there. Like, it was just like, this is
On the couch. You got like the detergent behind your back.
Luckily, we had a few weights in our basement, so like it worked out. But I'm like, do I really want to run again today? And the answer is always no, but I still did it.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be ready, but like, man, this is awful. But it was just like, so finally, like, and no communication whatsoever. I'm like, am I even gonna get a contract? Am I gonna get to go back? Like, I don't even know. Like, nobody's keeping in contact with me. I have no idea. So finally, they call us back, like, yeah, like, we want you back like next week. I'm like, all right, cool. Let me pack all my stuff back up. And I'm living out of suitcases this whole time. So it's just like, this is just a disaster. So get back out there, get ready for Challenge Cup. And it was just like trying, like you were asking about the transition from college to this. It was like definitely the pace, definitely like speed of play, strength, all that stuff that everybody says. And then you add the altitude in there and you're like, okay, like, I can't even breathe. That is out of control. But honestly, like, I think that my teammates were like very, like, the most helpful in that transition, like very patient, very like welcoming. If I did something wrong, saying like, okay, you could do this instead, or like, very encouraging when I did something well. So I think that was a big help in that. And then, yeah, like, first game rolls around and, I was like, I don't know if I'm playing or not, I don't know. And so prior to the game, our coach came up to us and was like, hey, like, we're going to spring you off the bench. So like, tune in from the first whistle. And I'm like, okay. So, and it's funny because like for me, I play forward. So like it's not like a high pressure situation. It's like, okay, like, you go in there, if you score, like, you're the hero. If you don't, like, you didn't lose the game. You know what I mean? Like, unless you're like wide open.
Forward.
Unless you're like wide open and miss, the net. But like, so for me, it was like a low pressure situation. I'm like, okay, like, let's do this. Like, this is the moment like you've been waiting for. Like, let's get in there and rock it. And so the ball ended up like, it bounced. I was on the back post. And it bounced so weird, bro. Like, I was like,
I know that's the thing is like, sorry, I didn't mean to get excited, but like a lot of people look at it and be like, oh, it was like a header. I'm like, no, like the ability for you to like adjust your body that quickly without it being a handball, like without you like chest, like doing it going down your body, like it's such a high level skill. I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but that's how excited I got about it. It was like, from the naked eye, it's like, oh, it was a header back post, but like, it ain't just a header back post.
It was the weirdest bounce of all time. Like, I was like, in my head, it was like in slow motion, because I remember thinking like, how are you going to get this in the net? Like, I don't care, but literally put something on the end of this and get it in the net. And I literally turned my head like, I don't even, like, I was like, it was
just you just got to get a body part. You're like, literally
exactly
hit me and hopefully go over the line.
I know. And so like, I ended up redirecting it, and it was like, I was like, let's go.
Did you feel just like a sense of just like, just like all that, going back from East Coast to West Coast, just like everything in that moment? Did you feel it in that moment, or was it afterwards?
Yeah, not in that moment. I was like, okay, like, we got one, like, let's keep going. And then I don't think it was really till, I don't know, probably not till after the game. I was in my room watching back like my family's posts of like them cheering, like, and I was like, okay, like, it was all worth it. Like, this is hype. Like, first goal under the belt. So.
Yeah. I mean, I remember watching it and being like, we caught like the last 20 minutes and you came in, and like my husband, I was like, yo, Parker, like, she's the kid that I've been telling you about. Like, she's legit. And then you scored, and he was like, yeah, that was really hard. And I was like, I'm sliding in her DMs right now. It was like, great game. Like, so happy for you to score your first goal.
Fangirl Joe.
I know, literally like your biggest fangirl. Seriously.
I love it.
Well, you've obviously, gotten your feet wet in a lot of different areas, both on the field and off.
Absolutely.
So our last question we wanted to kind of ask you about was one, like, now that you've kind of played in the league, you've gotten a taste for the talent, you've gotten kind of a role and figured out where you fit in your team. What are your goals for the 2021 season? Like, what are your expectations for yourself going into this next year? Hopefully COVID free and having a normal season and you not having to go home for 3 months. And then also we wanted to talk about your off the field ambitions. I know you guys created the Black Players Coalition.
Right.
And I wanted to see, like, from a steps perspective, like, what are your expectations and goals for next year as well? Because I know that that's something that's still evolving and you're kind of figuring it out as you go. And what a great thing it is.
Yeah, definitely. So, I think the one, positive thing of this year, like you had mentioned, is that, like, I got to get my feet wet on the field. And it was in a low pressure situation. Like, it wasn't like like the pressure of a regular season, all the fans. It was like, okay, like, you can see what the pace is like without, it being such high stakes. And so I think that that was one thing that I'm really grateful for. And going into next year, obviously there's a lot of uncertainty in our club right now. And so I think, one of my biggest goals is to just come in to preseason ready to go for whatever the new situation will look like, because obviously that's something that's kind of unclear right now. And to just, continue picking up where I left off and improving in whatever, whether that be, my fitness, whether that be, getting more goals, being a great teammate, being welcoming to whoever our new teammates will be, like so many different, aspects in that sense. And then off the field, we started this kind of new initiative where we're like spotlighting, different organizations in the community and what they're doing. So definitely picking up with that again. It was hard because we only got to do 3 with the short amount of time we had. But next year, looking to expand that even more. Get more support for the community. And then with the Black Women's Player Collective, just just being supportive of all the Black players in the league. And I think that's such a huge thing that Midge and Crystal and all them started. Just being able to, like I said, like there are teams where there's only one black woman on the team, and it's like a stressful situation. And so letting them know that they have backing from all, like, it's not just them speaking when they speak, it's all these Black women in support of one another. It's so powerful. And just looking forward to see, like, what we can do and the events that we can put on, and continuing to support each other. And so just
go away COVID.
Exactly.
Enjoy events with each other and like participate. Jeez.
Exactly.
Over it.
That's awesome. I just love to hear all about that. That is just phenomenal. Okay, so we kind of like to wrap up with just a little bit of a rapid fire.
Let's go. I'm terrible.
Yeah. That's okay. You can take your time. It's not like you have to like spit it out within like a second.
We don't clock you.
Yeah, we don't clock you. Yeah. Cool. All right. Ready?
Yes.
All right. What's your favorite coffee drink?
I don't drink coffee, but I like chai tea.
Nice.
Okay. We've got one of those.
Got one of those. Describe yourself in 3 words.
Hot mess. That's cool. Sorry. One more.
No, you can dash it. We'll put a dash.
We'll dash. It's fine. You got 2 more.
Outspoken and last word. I can't think of a last one. We'll just count those 4.
Count hot mess.
Strong.
I'd say strong. Yeah, strong popped in my head. Strong.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
We know you haven't played all of the NWSL teams, but what's been your favorite NWSL team to play so far?
Honestly, like, favorite to play, like when I say favorite, I mean like hated it and loved it at the same time. I gotta go with Houston. Houston this year was,
they had it.
Nice.
It looked really good, but also were like really annoying to play against. So
yes, absolutely. I was like, we played them 3 times. Like they're one of the teams.
Your
that
favorite team is typically the one that's like the most annoying because you get the
Yeah.
most, like, I think, like up for it. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It was always a blast. Okay, current favorite takeout.
Honestly, it's weird because I'm home now.
Mhm.
So now that I'm home, I gotta go with Wawa if you consider that.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
But when I was in Utah, I was doing Jersey Mike's pretty often. So
Right on. Mike's Way? You get Mike's Way?
of course.
Absolutely. Good to know. Television show you've recently binged.
So I've been back watching Sister Sister.
Oh,
Now that it's back on Netflix.
yes.
I used to love it.
Yeah, and Tamara.
I love it.
Nickelodeon. I was watching that every night. Nick at Night. I was watching that all the time.
It's funny because like when you watch old shows, you're like, it's either gonna be like 10 times better than I thought it was when I was
Mhm.
younger, or it's gonna be like, okay,
Yeah,
why did I ever watch this?
Like,
But,
sorry, mom and dad.
but it's so good, so good.
I think that's the best answer we've
I
got.
gotta get back on that. Okay.
I know. Okay, current favorite teammate. We know this changes day to day, but like it could be like your roommate or it could be whoever.
That's hard.
I know.
I don't even think I have an answer to that one. Like,
You
honestly,
gotta give us one. Who's like your homie?
my homie. I mean, I guess I gotta go with Lo
I
Santa.
Oh yeah, she's a homie. Okay.
That girl is
Take that.
something else, man.
don't
But
know her personally, but I'm always like, she seems like I want to be her friend.
she be cracking me up, but she's out of control.
I love it. I love it.
Feisty. Like she's like a feisty midfielder.
She
Like
is
I've seen
How
her-
tall is she?
not tall. She's
Yeah,
tiny.
she makes up for it.
Yeah. She plays big, that's for sure. Well, Z, thank you for hopping on, giving us an hour of 2 wash-ups, 1 pro.
Oh, we loved it. Thank you.
Blast.
Yes.
Thank you guys.
Excited to see what you continue to do. It's amazing.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.